So they just tell the steps and they expect the teacher to do it. So that's not even a level. So that's something we can do with any technology, and people actually expect that.
Can you do it well on the Excel today? And if not, what do we have to do?
Right, and it doesn't look like there's those kind of
write a good lesson.
Right, it doesn't look like there's good lesson plans available for the teacher to lead.
In a useful way. Right now, we have no way of annotating a kernel or editing it into from what you may have done as your experiment to
the bigger concern.
package.
The bigger concern for me is, can I replay a section of the journal for somebody else?
Right.
Can I fabricate an experience that I want to hand over to you?
But even if we walk step back and use the totally non-technological thing, is there some place the teacher could go to a website and read instructions on what they have their kids do first, second, and third? It doesn't, and how that might relate to something, how they might relate to teaching goals. That's what teachers expect. That's what most of the world has. And that doesn't even seem to exist yet.
Didn't somebody mention lesson plans earlier?
Yeah.
Didn't you say there was some available?
Certainly Peru is doing that.
So Peru has those.
Is it a good idea for Chris or I to write lesson plans? Probably not.
I wanted to show something activity.
Making it easy for teachers to be able to write that in some interesting way. That probably does a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's some.
So when you get to writing them in the open source world, the open source project that's done the most on this is LAMS. Like LAMS, Learning Activity Management System. It's too heavy to fit on your current school server. It's written in Java. But it's something to look at in terms it's a totally open source project that has a beautiful, really cute drag and drop interface for putting things together. So it's definitely something to look at as you move forward.
Yeah, so that's more, I think AMS is maybe more related to that.
Yeah.
Learning management.
Learning management system. And there's standards.
Maybe.
The IMS LD, Learning Design, are the standards that are supposed to allow interoperability between, doing from one platform to another. And they're also still under development. There's various controversies. Yes, you know about standards. So there's just, there's other places and people trying to solve this problem. You're not alone.
So I kind of find there to be two ways to look at the problems you've proposed in your talk. And one of those, as Tomeo mentioned, is closely related, I think, to this notion of the project, which in my mind is kind of a very generic context in which we can aggregate stuff that has some relationship in order to provide a template for some future experience. And that could be a lesson plan, including some images, some links, some text to get started, perhaps ordered, arranged, however the creator wants.
Okay, but what do I do with it? What experience do I have as a result of interacting with that object?
Well, I'm trying to get at the problem you posed of creating a flow or a narrative through content or activities, and delivering that to someone in a simple context, right? So delivery is a big part of the problem. If I have to send you 15 photos and then this URL over here and this document I made
individually.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So some context for encapsulating this narrative or this experience, it would be really useful. And the other thing that I think is important is the ability to take some artifact, be it a picture or something I made, and carry that through a number of different activities, right? Which is, in some ways, a different way of stating the same thing, but it has different implications in practice, right? So how can I take something from here and act on it in a whole bunch of different manners and come up with something useful? And I think both of these we don't do well enough yet.
And how are we going to move forward after this meeting ends? Which are the concrete steps we can take?
Well, something that I'd like to know is whether you think that this problem is significant enough for our users to warrant further attention.
I think it's work, but I don't know how much is it. But well, perhaps it has to do with the learning styles that she said. In that the activity paradigm cannot be sufficient. That is, it's just like the other day someone was saying that we should move to objects that we can make different operations on them and so on. But well, it's another kind of interaction paradigm that has been studied, implemented, didn't reach the mainstream, but it's also insufficient. So we shouldn't try so hard to find only one solution that works. And when we try one and it doesn't work always, we say it's crap, and we should move to the other thing. I think it's not useful. We should just experiment as much as we can.
So I don't think that we should experiment blindly. I think that we should choose a collection of experiences which we're going to provide really well, and get those to the point where we provide them really well, and then choose another set of experiences.
Well, sure.
And I think that's also true for learning styles. I don't understand it to be a criticism at all that this means of learning is especially appreciable by a selection of the population. That's fine. You've got to start somewhere. If you have a different selection of the population you prefer to start with, please say so.
No, right. I just mean that I also want to understand very well a set of problems and give the best solution to all of them. Now, the truth is that probably we are going to fail at first, right? So we should take into account the risk of failure and behave as well as possible in this context that we are going to fail at first. So let's not put all the eggs in one basket because it's going to break. We know that. And web apps like Amethyst perhaps makes a very easy experimentation as a first step and gives us a lot of useful information so we can do the next step. Or just jump to do some kind of activity or to add to Sugar the primitive project that aggregates a lot of other things. We can do that.
So going to the lesson plans, and they were saying that they didn't want to write the lesson plans. The way I see it is that Caroline or education teachers give the developers a lesson plan and say, here's the 7 different learning styles, and then the guys at No Sugar say, well, here's the lesson plan, here's the learning style, here's what you can do on the EXO, or here's the activity that actually matches up with those 2 things. Does that sound something, like if I gave you a lesson plan and the 5 different learning styles, you might be able to look at it and say, oh, you can use this activity to cover this activity to cover this activity to cover that. You're not writing the lesson plan, but you're allowing the kid to jump into an activity with open creation and create his own way forward. Is that a possibility?
Yeah. So the lesson plan so among the lesson plans that I saw from Peru was a journalism lesson plan. Be a journalist, or actually be a journalist for exo.com, I think was the full title of the lesson plan. And it used any number. It used about 5 or 6 different activities on Sugar. You were to go and take pictures, and they even used like the sort of speak activity, which pronounces stuff. I don't remember exactly how that was involved in the lesson plan, but take pictures, put it in a report, look up stuff on the internet. They had a couple others which were surprising. I can't remember them at the moment, but pull together all this stuff and come up with a coherent lesson plan that ties it all together. So I think in general, well, there's a tension between is the lesson plan going to be learn programming Pippi with Python, or learn programming Python with Pippi, or is the lesson plan going to be more broad, like learn civic events, and we're providing more broad.